All right, guys, I'm Bill, the president of RSC, also known as Racing Sport Concepts. I'm here with my friend Casey of the Casey Puch YouTube channel of world renown. We're here to do an installation of our famous Superleggera wing for his brand new Gallardo slash Gallardo slash Gallardo
Giggly Lardo
Lamborghini.
Yeah.
Call it what you want. It's all good.
Yeah, actually, man, your wing is super high quality. This thing is light and gorgeous and glossy and beautiful, and I'm all about it.
So one of the big differences with this as opposed to some of the other products on the market is we always use pre-impregnated carbon for everything.
Oh, okay.
So all the fabric, the carbon fiber fabric, is pre-impregnated with resin from the factory. So it comes in a big roll with the resin already integrated into the fabric, which reduces the impurities and some of the variants that you get when you're trying to suck resin through a vacuum bag.
You're not going to get little bubbles and stuff.
Well, that, and you don't get the pull, you know, on the weave and stuff like that, because the resin kind of helps it adhere to the tool.
So that's how it's so beautiful.
Well, that, and then after that, we don't use what's called out of autoclave pre-preg. We use normal pre-preg. So then it goes into an autoclave, which is a huge pressure chamber that makes the weave really flat and uniform, so you won't have any of the waviness.
Got it.
And you won't see the carbon getting pulled in different directions.
For sure.
Throughout.
No, that's awesome, man. And you get your rest of your parts here. That just
whole
kit.
So that's another one of the key benefits of the RSC packages. We offer a complete solution. So these two things right here, these are rubber gaskets. These are OEM Lamborghini parts, and they're used to help mate the wing against the paint on the car, so that it's not, you know, a hard part on a hard part. So we have these in stock all the time, and package them on certain situations.
And then I really like this. This looks like, so the rear of the wing, you've got a place for the third brake light, which I think you'll show us, but I'm guessing this panel is either so you can go flat and just let it be aero, or if you want to put a backup camera on it?
Yeah, so some Gallardos come with a factory backup camera and some don't.
Got it.
So what we did is we include both plates, both covers, if you will. So if you have the backup camera, you can use this, and that's actually what this black bracket for is right here. This is an OEM camera bracket, which can attach to this plate so that you can reuse your OEM camera and mount it and have it aligned correctly and everything like that. So yeah, that's a huge benefit. You get both of these. Camera brackets extra. The main things that we charge separately for are the gaskets, the bracket, and the light, which are OEM parts. So I mean, we're not really marking those up. We're just buying that from Lamborghini. The other thing to note is some cars will not need the rear brake light. You'll notice on, and we'll probably reshoot this later, but on an 04, 05, the brake light's actually in the roof. On the later model cars, the brake light's in the active aero wing. If it's in the active aero wing, then you can reuse that brake light. But because it's an older model car, we'll have to do.
Now, one other thing I want to mention is, so your actual wing is very light and very nice. That is every bit of what I would expect from, like, you know, super high-end racing work, aerospace, etc. And also, I'm assuming these base plates, which go underneath and sandwich, and that's how it all bolts together and clamps in.
Yeah.
This is goes the other way. Okay. I was just kind of
three screws. I mean,
it's this is super high quality, man. This is so strong. Like, really, I'm not even kidding. This is a beast.
It is. It's strong. We try to overbuild everything just because it's better to be safe than to have a problem. And it's just a good product. We've sold hundreds of these wings over 10 or 12 years. Over here you'll see all the stainless steel T304L hardware that we include. Actually, it's T316 to be honest.
Yeah, that's nice.
But that gives you everything you need to install the wings, so there should be no trips to the hardware store, no frustration, stuff like that.
Yep. Awesome.
And it's reversible.
I love that. I hate it when you're in the middle of a project and you're like, you're in the hardware store or something. Yeah, it's nice to have all this. Well, cool. So you're gonna show me how to do this. I think we got to start taking apart the underside of the deck and the electronic.
Let's get to it, man.
Cool. Okay, so on the side here, I have to remove this entire lower engine cover. The hardware used by Lamborghini is a metric countersunk Allen bolt, which I'll show you right here. Just a little countersunk guy, real easy, came out nicely. You just use your metric Allen wrenches, they're real easy to come by. Also, I do suggest that when you're working on things like this, that you keep your hardware somewhere. In fact, I'm going to put it somewhere even better. somewhere out of the way and in order so it doesn't get lost. So obviously you can see I've had a bunch of projects going on, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to literally start arranging my hardware in a row as I took it off. So it's easy to know how to put it back together. So obviously the trim is off. That's the big plastic piece that is underneath the hood. The louvers are off and everything like that. Now, with regard to putting on the Superleggera wing, there's a heck of a lot of wires that come from the computer that control this electric active arrow. So for right now, what I'm going to do is this. I'm simply going to leave the wires connected to the motor, so all that stuff will remain hidden underneath the trim. And I will be removing the mechanical assembly here that hold the electronic active arrow wing. And at which time I'll be able to bolt on the carbon fiber Superleggera wing in place. So in truth, the motor will still be under there and will operate, but it will not in fact be moving any active arrow. Now the reason I'm doing that is because I really don't want to deal with it throwing check engine lights or skitzing the car out. Since I'm just doing this now, I haven't found a way yet to defeat that, so we're going to simply leave that in. So when it comes to actually removing the actuators here that make the active arrow go up and down, it's a little trickier than you might think. What I'm doing right now is removing something called an E-clip so I can remove this pivot point, because what I want to be able to do is take this part of the assembly and separate it from the wing. And I'm also going to be separating these actuators with the cables that are push-pull cables and the entire motor assembly. Now what we found out, Bill, you coming in on this one? Oh.
He's bowing out. Go ahead, Jason.
I'm just laughing at the amount of cameras
better
here.
behind the camera than in front of the camera.
So what I've learned here, now this is the plug that would normally go into the motor actuator for the active arrow, and what you'll notice is there's a whole lot of wires right there. Now what we know is if we jump the wire from the number 4 position, which is this black with white stripe wire, to the number 10 position, which is a little red wire, that is what you have to do to basically deactivate this and make it so no check engine lights will come on. And then you'll just take this little wiring and you'll tuck it away somewhere nice. Once you remove the 2 pivot points that actually hold the active arrow on, it's free and ready to come out. So what I did is I had a helper holding the hood right here at eye level for me. That way I could get my eyes right in there and work on it carefully, because now that the active arrow lift assembly is removed, one, you can see how it works. This gray wedge simply gets pulled and it makes this raise upward. So these 2 points here are what connects to the wing, and those are attached by these little stainless steel pins here, which to disconnect that, you have to remove these E-clips that you see right here. Now what you use is a teeny screwdriver that you're able to just get the edge into one of those holes and pull it out. Now you have to be ready, because those things can go boing! So you need to do it really mindfully, really carefully. Maybe have a magnet handy so that if it does get loose, the magnet will grab it and it won't end up in your engine bay somewhere. So this is now removed. I'm quite happy about it. And we know how to disable the system. So from here on out, all I got to do is real quick just take out these Allen bolts and remove the motor. So that's what we're going to do right now. So remove the motor assembly and all the tracks and cables. Now we're just down at the bare hood, with the exception of this piece here, these flexible plastic pieces. You can see they kind of went around, just kind of a nice trim. So gonna remove these with these, each one has 3 Allen bolts. Generally speaking, the Lamborghinis aren't kept outside, but you still want to be mindful of corrosion now they're getting a little bit older. But all the hardware is coming out well. So in a moment here, when I get these 6 bolts out, we will be ready to start installing the Super Leggera wing from RSC. So I got the OEM brake light from RSC as well. A reason being is for mine, it has the third brake light up by the roof. So in this circumstance, I need something that's going to fit in here. So what you do is, these are the stock screws that come with it. They're black. They've got a little nylon washer and you remove those. They're not quite long enough. Now included in the kit here with the wing and some hardware. So we've got some little bit longer self-tapping screws that are stainless, and they're also Phillips head, which I appreciate over the Torque because Phillips screwdrivers are much easier to come by. So now my suggestion for you is this: when you're doing it, just take a look carefully at the wing first. It's a very nice fit here, but right here is a piece of material that's bonded that supports the wing in structure here. It gives it structure in terms of crush and also just the nature of the composite. And what you're going to do is, these screws are actually going to tap into that just as though you were screwing into other kinds of material, whether it be plastic or wood. In this circumstance, it's not that, but I think you guys understand what I mean. Now, if you look carefully at the light here, it does have a little bit of curve to it. So it's important that you put that in correctly. I didn't do it right the first time. And also, if you'll notice, here's where the plug is. That has to go in first. Now, for today, I'm not going to be hooking up the brake light. I'm just going to be putting it in place. I don't have the plug yet, and I'm going to do that at a later time. But for today. So first, you're going to put the plug in because it has to go down here like this. I would suggest not to force it. Just be mindful that things are in place. And look at that, it fits in fine. Now, if you do put this in upside down, it's not going to fit real well, so don't force it. But it's really subtle, the curve on it, but that fits quite nice. I'm very happy with that. All right, so I got my stainless steel screws. Just going to drop them in, see if they hit at the right spot. Yep, looks good. They contact what they're going to thread in, the material they're going to thread into first. And I'm going to do this, you got to do it firmly, but gently and intelligently. So make sure you have a good Phillips screwdriver that you know fits in here well, so you're not going to slip. And I'm just going to start here. I don't know if I need to drill a pilot hole yet. I'm going to just see if I can get away with not. It sort of looks like you can't. All right, so I'm going to drill a pilot hole in it. Now, the most reasonable way to do it, in my opinion, now you got to have a discerning eye when you go picking up your drill bits. Make sure you have a good sharp drill bits, but I do this by eyeball. So what I like to do is when I look at a screw, you have the shaft here, and then you've got the threads that come up off of it. So really what I'm doing is finding myself a drill bit that will be the size of the shaft or maybe a teeny tiny bit smaller. That way the hole you make, when this goes into it, it'll just be the threads cutting their way into it. So this is going to be the right size. In fact, let me just tell you what it is, since you guys probably want that information. 1/8 inch. So just like a 1/8 inch drill bit is going to be where it's at. So just got to grab my drill. Now with this, it's going to be a little tricky. I'm going to have to really cheat that drill bit to its extreme in terms of length, because I really need it to go, it's got to go a long way in there before it actually hits the material. So here I go again with the third brake light. I'm going to carefully put that in place. Now, it's very, very important that you've got it positioned correctly before you go drilling. All right, so everything's positioned nicely. Carefully put my drill bit in there, see that it's centered. I'm just going to go for it. There it is. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to first put in this screw before I drill the second hole. The reason being is I want this to locate the tail light nicely. And by putting the screw in, it is affixed and finished. And if I didn't put the screw in, it could still move. So now I know that fits because the screw's already in there. So we're going to go ahead and put this one in. Okay, the same bag that had those two large self-threading bolts there for Phillips head also has these 4 stainless steel countersunk Allen head bolts. Looks like it's a 2.5 millimeter Allen wrench. Now, if you look carefully at them, this is important, 2 of them are longer than the other 2. I'm going to line them up so you can see it. These two are just a hair longer than those two. And the longer ones go here more toward the tail light. They've got a little bit further to go before they go in. So just wanted to tell you that's basically what's up with that. So I'm gonna go ahead and start back here. Now my suggestion for you is when you put this in there, just get it started. Don't horse it down yet. I'm gonna suggest that you put them in much like you would be if you were torquing a wheel down. You don't torque one lug bolt down all the way first. Okay, now guys, here's something that's very important for you to think of. So this is a beautiful carbon fiber composite wing that's bonded with presumably an epoxy resin. Now, the threads that you're actually threading these bolts into is a stainless steel insert. Now, it's important that these bolts should thread in very nicely. So if you're having to force it, that means you're potentially cross-threaded, or you might have something, dirt, contaminant, clear coat, something like that in your threads. So as a note, when you're holding your Allen wrench, if you go like this, you put it in this way, you can put a heck of a lot of torque on it. So if you're having to put this much force in it to turn it, something's wrong. So I like to hold it this way because I can't put very much torque in it like this. And that's going to keep you safer. And if there is a little bit of a resistance, you're most likely not going to hurt anything. So do be a little delicate like that. Make sure that it's threading in properly. Pro tip, make sure your audio is working before you hit record. Anyway guys, the wing is on and I think it looks absolutely fantastic. I was really happy with it. Didn't require any really pushing around or zhuzhing up. It's beautifully centered, looking great, obviously firm planning, and the gaskets are fitting and looking gorgeous. So naturally with that pre-preg carbon fiber, it's a beautiful finish, so I'm as happy as can be. But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pop the hood and show you what's going on underneath here. Now obviously the original wing is gone. And you'll notice that I decided not to put back on the plastic trim of the car. I think it's kind of stupid because it's heavy and just warps and looks ugly. And I just don't see the point. It just makes your car slower. So I got to clean up the inside of the hood here, but it's going to be the shiny black. That's just my choice here. But anyway, you can see the carbon fiber receptacles. They go in here with the stock hardware. Just reuse that. Now forgive a little bit of the corrosion. That's just from my car in the stock. But then you can see the beautiful stainless steel hardware here that goes from these receptacles, which bolts to the threaded inserts into the wing stanchions here. Now another pro tip for you guys, when you're doing this, you're going to need a helper. You're going to need somebody that can just hold the hood at a certain level. That's the best place for you to work on. You don't want it up here, you don't want it down here, and you don't want it just moving. You need somebody that can hold it right there. Also, you're going to want somebody that can hold the wing. It's very lightweight, still very strong, so it's rather easy, but you need that. And you're going to be wanting to tighten up your bolts here. Now, another pro tip is when you're working on the car, let's be honest, you're probably going to drop a piece of hardware, as I found by the 2 or 3 pieces of hardware we dropped, one of which made it to the floor. The other 2 we found on the engine, and the 3rd one ended up on a cross member, and when I went to go get it, got bumped and is now inside my frame somewhere. So just go ahead and put something like a jacket right there so that when you do drop one of your bolts, you can find it. But anyway, lastly, when you're tightening these, you get them threaded, make sure you don't cross-thread them, you're starting it, this is coming down. Now, the gasket, go ahead and just gently stretch it and put it over top of this for now. That way you can start tightening this down, and as it gets closer, really close, then take the gasket, just gently stretch it and put it in place. That way it'll be in place. Maybe you can put a little pressure down on the wing, then you can tighten it up the rest of the way. That'll make it a lot easier than just trying to put the gasket in place with it being a little bit smaller and then tightening it down. This way you're gonna get it rock solid and it's gonna fit perfectly. So just think that through, kind of process, think. It's exceptional. It's sitting here. You can see I have the flush mounted bottom panel here since I'm not running the backup camera, at least for right now. And of course I now have an OEM third brake light in here that I'll wire a little bit later on a different day. Of course I got to put the little trim pieces back in, but otherwise it's on here rock solid and looking great. But honestly, I just could not be happier with RSC or Racing Sport Concepts wing. The carbon fiber work is beautiful, the fit is fantastic, and honestly guys, it just looks great. So I think now it's time to go for a drive.